Are we good to go? Hello? I should have got my audio on, so I got to turn that off.
Testing.
Yep, I can hear you guys.
Test, test.
All right. We're going to start our the open session of our board meeting today. Would you please call the roll, Aaron?
Student trustee Briggs,
Here.
trustee Griffin,
Here,
trustee Gay,
Here.
trustee Morton, trustee Young,
Here.
trustee Schaefer,
I'm present. Let's see. We had nothing to report out of closed session. Next item is to approve the agenda.
I'll move to approve the agenda as written. You don't have any changes?
I will second it.
student trustee Briggs,
Yes.
trustee Griffin,
yes,
trustee Gay,
Yes.
trustee Young,
Yes.
trustee Schaefer,
Yes. Moving on to the consent agenda, I have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Also motion.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded.
student trustee Briggs,
Yes.
trustee Griffin,
yes,
trustee Gay,
Yes.
trustee Young,
Yes.
trustee Schaefer,
Yes. So Tobin, would you like to give your report?
Student report might go first.
Oh, you're right. I passed over Bodie. Bodie, would you like to give your report?
Yeah, of course. All right, so we have just started our second semester and things are off to a good start. Our graduating class is hard at work with scholarships, both local and non-local. With our school-wide Bravo game I talked about last time, that's coming to an end, but we're also having multiple tournament startups such as chess and ping pong. We also have both our varsity basketball teams winning league and they're off to playoffs now, along with the high number of fundraisers going on for people's AE week trips. We also have our student improv group is having a show quite soon. And that's all.
Thank you.
Where do you want me? Right about here? All right, great. So just a few things to share with the board. Some more to add on to what Bodie was saying, things that are going on around campus since the last time I spoke with you. This was a fun event. Our engineering pathway, a couple students that are in that pathway built a robot and took it to a competition in Sacramento. Basically, the robot can pick up these yellow discs and shoot it into this goal, kind of like disc golf, but the robot does it. It's pretty fun to watch. They're going to a huge tournament down in Silicon Valley next week with about 115 teams, be an international event. So that'll be a lot of fun for them. Like Bodie said, both basketball teams are have won their leagues and are headed to playoffs. You can see a picture here. We celebrated senior night this week. 4 senior boys and 2 senior girls will be moving on. We have a new sports team. It is an esports team. So this is great. They go and they play video games against other schools all over the state, you know, and it's kind of like anytime Mendo goes and plays a big school, your eyes are opened a little bit. And it's the same with video games. They're like, wow, these guys are for real. And so they're having a great time. Thanks a lot to Megan Miller for really spearheading this. Marshall helped get some of the tech aspects of it set up, but they're having fun. I'd like to thank Eli and Julia Rolfe for a new greenhouse roof. We had one put on by a parent years ago, and it started splitting at the seams and leaking. And so Eli and really Julia helped spearhead this, got a new roof on, which promptly blew off during the storms. And then they got the crew back out there and put more compression wire on it in other places. So hopefully this time it'll last longer, but that was a very generous donation from them. I'd like to thank them for the effort that they put into actually making that happen and finding the people that do it. So that was really awesome. Thank you to them. A little bit of good news here. We applied for a really just an award based on our dual enrollment with Mendocino College. And it was really a joint effort of Mendocino College did a lot of the legwork for applying. And then I took all their data and information and put our, more specifically, there are a number of schools, Fort Bragg, I think Point Arena, a number of schools that applied for this in the county. We were the only one that actually ended up getting it in Mendocino County. So that is both, a sign of all the good things that we're doing, but also the great work that Mendocino College is doing to really reach out to the high schools. So you can see there's some districts, Kern County, LA, and there's us, Mendocino. So that was a nice
Is this based on
recognition.
The percentage of students who participate, or?
I think there was a lot of questions and a lot of, it was a fairly comprehensive look at the program.
Mhm.
So I think it did have to do, with that, with the populations we're reaching, the number of classes, the variety, all of those things. This is the first year they've done this award. So there will be, I think, some recognition later on, but I think that is yet to be determined. But they said it was a competitive field, and you look at the size of some of these districts here, I think it speaks well for what we're embracing in that realm. We've met recently about looking at sort of the transition from the contractor to the owner getting into the building and what that's going to look like. We've talked about, they might be out of there at the end of March, but that doesn't mean we're in there at the beginning of April. There's still things we need to do, such as setting up the Wi-Fi and all the AV equipment and installation. And, just something as simple as figuring out what kind of mount a projector can go on can take a while. Turns out that the contractor's providing that. And now I have the model, I know what it looks like, and all that. But sometimes answering those questions takes a little bit. We've been looking at keying hierarchy. That's what this color-coded picture of all the rooms is kind of about. And then other things like landscaping, and we got that gazebo, so we're just preparing for the fact that when the building's done, there's certain things that need to happen, and we want to make sure that we are on it and have a list, and we're starting to address those sooner than later, as well as the transition between phase 1 and phase 2. So like there's getting into the building and there's getting out of phase 2 and making that whole transition work. So trying to get everyone on board and on the same page, because there's not really one person that can take care of all of that. So we are thinking about that. And that's what I have. That's all for tonight. So if you guys have any questions, be happy to answer them. Keeping it simple.
Kevin, I'm curious about the gaming team, how that fits into either athletics or school. Gaming oftentimes is not a very positive pursuit in a lot of ways.
I think you could argue that. I think there are some positives. One of them is there's a whole other group of students that are now engaged in a school activity who are held to the same standards. It's a CIF sport. So they are held to the same grade standards, the same behavior standards. I think anytime we can get students engaged in some way and hold them to, higher standards is positive. As far as the games they're playing, I think they are fairly low key in
That
terms
was
of,
my next question. So
you know,
CIF
there was,
They're
yeah.
choosing which games or.
Yeah, I think there's certain games and Marshall might have something to say about that, but they are definitely not the violent. They do joust and fight and they're, you know, stuff like that, but it is not like war games. They are mythical creatures with swords and stuff. I don't know what game was that I was watching the other day.
So it's, you know, there is some fighting going on, but it's all cartoonish.
Mhm.
There's no first person shooters, there's no like violent games there. There's very like, you don't want students to be playing games like that. Rocket League is one of the other games that's competitive.
I think also just, you know, anytime, like I said, they were kind of starstruck, like, wow, these people are good. And just understanding that like whatever it is, whether it's video games or soccer or robotics, you go out there and you're like, wow, these people have put a lot into this and they know what they're doing and they're at another level, you know, and, you know, there is a value to that, you know, to be said to that and practicing and getting better and being part of something. So, you know, I think just like, you know, sports, there's a value. They do go run around and take a lap before the games.
It raises my, I can't say I'm thrilled about it, but it's my initial reaction. I'm curious to the other board members. I think that children play far too many video games, and I think that there's a lot of other things they ought to be doing instead. That's my personal opinion. So I'm a little bit surprised to hear it. I'll try and keep my mind open. I'm curious if any of the other board members had any reaction to it.
Maybe if they're playing video games, it's great that they're doing it with adults around and teammates and learning how to interact with other kids and being good sports about it. We have issues with that in basketball and other sports that we have to teach kids and, you know, learning life lessons and things like that. So, you know, there are some of those same lessons to be learned. I am not a video gamer, but you know, I don't want to spend my time in front of a screen playing video games, but I appreciate that there are people that do, and that this is probably one of the more positive ways they could do that.
I like it. I think that you're drawing a parallel to physical sports. I think that there's a benefit of having a student participating in something. He's engaged in something that the school has vision on. He has people like Marshall that are there developing rapport, as compared to if you're in physical sport, you're out there playing, you know, basketball on a local court. There's no supervision. Who knows what's going on? The kids are going to be doing. If this is something kids like for example, my daughter, you know, she has certain things she likes to do, and she's going to most likely do them, whether I like it or not, whether I think it's beneficial for her. But in this case, I think it's a lot better than the alternative, and quite possibly, I think it's going to be a productive thing for some of these kids.
Yeah, and just like real sports, where a very small percentage is going to go on
I think we better call it physical
and maybe I should. I've got to figure that one out. Just like physical sports, there's a very low chance that you're going to go on and, you know, just like they say at the NCAA, we're all majoring, or, you know, we're all going pro in something other than sports, right?
Yeah.
And the same is, you know, true. We've had a couple students be successful in gaming, you know, and we've had a very few students go on and be successful in sports, you know, and actually make money at it. But, you know, so in that sense, there is that part of it as well.
That's a good point. Maybe some of these kids will go on to be kids that move to Oakland and write for e-games or whatever that thing's called down there.
Sure, absolutely. You know, I guess absolutely. My point being that it is an industry, and it is an intro into an industry and a thing that's pretty big.
Marshall, I think I heard one time that, and I think this may have changed, but I don't know. But isn't there as much money spent on games as there are on movies? More, yeah. So this is a real business.
Yeah, I mean, the gaming, the profession of competitive gaming is $1 billion industry, and that does not count video game development. There's more money in video games, in the development of games, for artists, coding, and everything else than there is for movie productions.
Right.
And that's also, again, $25-30 billion industry. My only other takeaway is from the discussion that's been had, just to see the students really have you sort of represent Mendocino High School, I think is another key part that otherwise may not necessarily feel that they are taking part in something that may not necessarily be part of the school, kind of wear the Mendocino Park banner, participate as a team sport. Again, it's a sport, those students know perfectly well, they're not doing something that's physical like basketball, but they are competing and representing and participating in, something that Megan and I are consistently going away. So it's, she's the main coach, but we're looking at it as, there's an immense amount of strategy involved, an immense amount of, discussions and communications with students that are really benefiting from having. So, but, for sure, both sides. Yeah.
I'd say thank you to you and her for putting yet another hat on.
And just to add a layer of nuance and complexity to this, the robot competitions that we do, they are using video game controllers to control the robots. So those people that are very experienced at playing video games are actually really good. They can drive forward and backwards, and it's like flying a drone or something. You could get really mixed up and turned around. So they're all, the difference being that it's manifesting in the physical world with the robot, but it gets super competitive. And, again, it's like you go out from the little bubble of Mendo and all of a sudden the robots are a little bigger and meaner than your robot, So, all right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks. Jason, you're also going to give a report for Rebecca, right?
Yeah.
The CompTIA school.
Yeah. So I'll wait on Rebecca's, but last week, Joe Aldrich, the Fort Bragg superintendent, and I did a Mendocino Coast Chamber of Commerce community luncheon. We spoke at the luncheon. It was held at the community center. It was great. We both had pretty similar messages, and just really enjoy working with Joe at Fort Bragg. It was a good event, so maybe we can do more of those.
How many people came?
There was about 15. And I'm happy to announce that MUSD is going to have a musical again this spring. It's going to be Matilda. It's going to be held the weekend before Memorial Day. I think it's for grades 4 through 12. And 3 community members got a grant to pay for their work and offered to do it for the school. So I'm very happy about that. So it'll be Lori LaPaul is going to be directing it. Lavender Grace is going to be doing the costumes, maybe. What is it? The music, and then Kara Starkweather is going to do the choreography. So super exciting to have a musical, or at least a play back. It's been since pre-COVID that we had a play.
If you're giving plugs for arts events, the improv group at the
right.
high school is having 2 performances next week.
That's right.
Wednesday and Thursday.
Yep. So Rebecca couldn't be here. Rebecca Cumby, the CompTIA school teacher, couldn't be here, but she wants the board to know that after the meeting, she has artwork up on the walls and student work. So if you want to take a look after the meeting. And then she put together a slideshow for us. I don't know if there's music or anything or pictures. So those are the staff members that come in from the K-8 on a weekly basis, and then every other week. It's great. So 4 students in TK, that's a lot for a small school. And that age, as you know, is going to keep getting bigger, that age span for TK. So we're going to see more TK students along the way. So a lot of community involvement at Comptree School. And then one other thing that wasn't on there is that we received a USDA grant to put a new playground down at the playground site, but we're having some disagreements with USDA and what ADA means for the path to get down there. So we've brought in ADA experts, and actually Otto redid the path when he was here, and we were sure that it met all the guidelines, and they're saying that they have a little more stringent guidelines. So we don't know if we're going to be able to, or how much it's going to cost, or what it all means, but we're trying to work with them on getting this grant, because it's about a $34,000 grant that we've received, and or maybe it's the total cost is $34,000, but we received $25,000. So the community is trying to fundraise for the other 8, and they've already fundraised about $1,500. We may have to supplement some from our general fund, but it would be nice to have a new playground down here.
That's why we are replacing all the walks around the CTE building, because what was ADA compliant when it was built is no longer ADA
Oh,
compliant.
so maybe that's it then.
So it
Maybe
might
it's not
be,
more
they just
stringent.
got more stringent. They've gotten more stringent on slopes and ramps and things.
Yeah, I remember Otto mentioning that, and I know he wasn't wrong, so.
Yeah, but I thought that once you had something in, unless you're changing the
Right.
actual path or something, it would be grandfathered in.
That's
So
true. So that's an interesting, so
Paula's working on that.
maybe if they want to see their money go to things that are
Yeah.
current, not
Yeah,
whatever
maybe.
they meant then. That
Maybe.
sounds like where they're going with it, but
That's it.
frustrating.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Is Diana here for
Yep.
MTA? Diana, would you like to give a report for MTA?
Hi guys, I'm here, but I have nothing to report. Thank you.
Okay. Is Michelle here for CMAS?
Nope.
Okay. I guess we'll go to board reports, and Emily, did you have a board report you wanted to make?
I don't have anything today, thanks. My apologies for not being there in person. I'm under the weather.
And Mark didn't rejoin us, right?
No, I'm here.
Oh, you are here. Do you have a
Yeah.
report? Or a board trustees report?
I also apologize for not being there. I had a doctor appointment I couldn't miss in Santa Rosa, so I'm sitting in front of In-N-Out Burger in my car at the moment. I'm just remembering that my first teaching job in this district was as a long-term sub at Comptree School. It wasn't in the building you're in now. It was in the old schoolhouse. That was 1974, I think, in September. The teacher had just quit, and so I came in as a long-term sub for a few weeks before they hired Richard Karch. Long time ago. That's all I have.
Thank you. Jim?
Nothing, thank you.
Winsford?
Had some long meetings up at the high school. I think we'll be getting into more when Don gives his report. One piece though, I am going to be processing some of the redwood from the water tank. That's going to be the benches in the main hall. So I think the token bit of wood that we're gonna get in there from that project. So I'm looking forward to making that happen.
By processing, you mean planing and cutting and?
Yeah,
all
I
that?
gotta get it. I checked in with Paolo, because it's out in the rain. I'm gonna
Right.
rough cut it, get it into the maintenance building so it can dry, and then planing it down. And probably getting it actually finished locally, because it's in our, they are not providing, we're providing it ready to go, basically. So hopefully get some finish on it and then they'll install. So working with them on that, and that's all I have.
Okay. I don't have anything to add. It's almost 5:30. So we'll go to parent community comment. If there's anybody who would like to speak before the board on items, especially ones that are not on the agenda, now's the time to do that. Is there anybody online? Raise your hand or indicate to Aaron that you want to speak.
Oh, right. We have, yeah. They're from the Symphony of the Redwoods.
Oh, okay.
They wanted to talk. I forgot they were coming.
Please do.
Is there anybody online, Aaron?
No, I don't see it.
Okay, well, welcome. This is an open meeting. You could have come in before and I would have recognized you, but that's fine. Come on in. It's to the right of the screen there.
This right?
Yep. And if you wouldn't mind identifying yourself and
Thank you. My name's Joni Packard. I'm the executive director of the Symphony of the Redwoods. This is Sethi Kulkarni. She is a member of our orchestra and also our music in the schools coordinator. And we wanted to let you know, I have a list of things, that part of our mission as a symphony is bringing music to children in our area, selfishly to help preserve the tradition. So we are doing a performance of Peter and the Wolf in the schools on March 3rd, both the Fort Bragg schools and the Mendocino schools. And that is being partially funded by the Mendocino County Office of Education and also private donors. And we just wanted to let you know that that was happening so that you would be supportive and be happy. And Suthy's going to play a little bit of it for us.
I guess, yeah, this is really just a sharing piece for the board. We felt like it would be really nice to connect with you all and to let you know what our intent was in bringing the music to the kids. All of the students, kindergarten through 5th grade, both in the Fort Bragg elementary schools and the K-8, will get to enjoy this. And I believe Comchi and Albion are invited, but we'll see if they'll be able to get over there to the campus. So we just thought we'd give you a really brief reminder of what that piece is and why it might be relevant to bring to children now. Classical music is a little bit, removed from a lot of children's experiences, but because each character in the story has a theme, we're hoping to bring lesson plans and even visits. Like, I'm willing to come into some of the teachers' classes and do little presentations and implement those lesson plans if that's what they would like, that connect a little bit more critical thinking and like descriptive language to the characters and the motifs that are musical, but also have a lot of action and I don't know how to finish that sentence, but you see what I mean. Trying to get the kids to think about why that music represents a certain character. So I just thought I would entertain you for about 2 minutes and remind you of what those Peter and the Wolf themes are and those characters, if you would indulge us. So thank you. So you can remind me, is there a time limit that should be a little bit stroked up? It's 2 minutes. Okay.
I'm gonna let her play as long as you will, because it's really fun to listen to.
It's a pretty delightful piece.
We mostly have these meetings where we all talk to each other. I welcome them in. If nobody comes from the public, so I'm thrilled.
That's good. This piece meant a lot to me too, because my son, who's a 6th grader now at the K-8, used to run around the living room in a wolf outfit when he was about 2, and we would enact this all the time. So it's fun to be able to finally play it and to bring it to a lot more kids. So the way the story goes, you might remember, is there's a little boy named Peter. He's a little, well, he lives in Russia with his grandfather, and he just, goes out of the garden gate one morning and runs around in the meadow. And his theme is this. And that recurs a million times throughout the piece. And then the little characters get introduced one by one. And the first one's a little bird who's just tripping around and saying everything is quiet and calm and peaceful, little does she know. And then there's also a duck who comes out and creates a little bit of rivalry with the bird, because the duck thinks she is superior because she can swim and the bird can only fly. comes in, very delicately walking around and trying to prey on these two birds. And then the grandfather, who's always grumpy, comes out and scolds Peter for leaving the confines of Garden Gate, because of course there's a forest nearby with a wolf that is known to come out. So grandfather is always walking around bent over and very stern. And then finally we hear that the wolf actually does come out of the forest very threateningly, and his theme is played by 3 French horns. And so the rest of the story, you can probably guess, the wolf catches the duck hole, and Peter very sneakily has a whole long story of catching the wolf by the tail and warding off some hunters that come out with their guns and are about to shoot, but he says don't shoot, and they take the wolf to the zoo. And then we can also talk about, of course, alternative endings to the story, and if the kids like that ending, if that's, fairy tale appropriate, or is it maybe we should change. So I think the teachers have a lot of possibilities with what they can do with this curriculum. We're going to provide them some lesson plans and suggestions, links to listening, watching if they want to, and they can use it or not to the extent that they want to. But hopefully the kids will have been prepped a little bit and enjoy the music all the more when they hear it on March 3rd. So thanks to everyone involved in this, especially kids, for coordinating this event and making this space where they can, where we can all come.
And you offer special discounts to families with children under 18.
We do, for our, at our symphonies, people under 18 are free, and so is the guardian that comes with them. All of our symphony concerts, all the time, and the next one is April 1st and 2nd. And we encourage that as much as possible, so anybody you know that would bring a child or a couple, please do. And you can call us at the symphony if you have any questions about that, but yes. Yes.
So music in the schools is, is coming back, and we hope to be a little more active in the coming years, I suppose. At least to make this an annual event and then see what else we can cook up too.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for giving us some of your time. Yeah. Great.
Thank you so much, you guys. Thanks, Billy. I hope I sound like God when I speak.
You have anything else to say, Emily?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Was there anybody else who wanted to speak online for public comment? No. All right, so we'll move to 8.1, which is our monthly update on construction at the high school. And Don Alameda is here, I think.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Dawn.
Aaron, my video's not working. If it, I can share my screen if it could.
You should be able to now, Don.
Okay. Oh, there we go. Sorry, I learned that I was in ComSci today. I'm looking forward to one day going to ComSci, but the logistics didn't work out today. I'm in Fort Bragg. I have to do a meeting here, and then I've got a board meeting over here after this board meeting. So the logistics didn't work out. So we're going to try to wing it here a bit. I'll share the screen. And I don't have the PowerPoint, but I'm gonna scroll through the report that I've given you. So it'll be a little bit different.
Well,
I could find it.
Erin has the PowerPoint if you want her to use it, Don.
I don't have it in front of me to walk through it and I can't see it. So
Okay.
I could get by with this way. Can you guys see the screen?
Yep.
Okay. So basically, and I think Tobin spoke a little bit of this, but I missed most of his spiel trying to get on board here. But anyway, we're kind of in the last of the trudges to get through the construction and segue into owner provided stuff and get the logistics together of moving in and being ready to move in and so on. So that's consumed a amount of time for the last week or two or three. But let me scroll through this. You can see that our expenditures are about 16 million, just shy of. So we're coming to the point where we're catching up with what the budget was. And as far as cost, and I'll have more on this as I scroll, but as far as cost, cost events, this project's been pretty tight. I mean, we have, as a percentage, it's been really low. What really catches us more is the ancillary costs that kind of bid us, which is the archaeologists and additional cost of testing, testing agency, which is dipping into our construction budget as well. So so overall project status, I'll read a little bit here and add a little bit, but the finishers are going in. They got switch gear installed and PG&E fired up the building. So we're on our actual permanent power now. Again, ready to fire up the mechanical systems. In the interim, they put temporary heat in the building so we could start putting finishes in. The walls have been painted. Some of the tile ceiling, acoustical tile ceilings have been dropped. And none of the floors have been put in yet, but that's the next step. We have to do a concrete moisture test in order to put the flooring in to demonstrate that the concrete's not too wet for the glue. Just as a background, probably 25, 30 years ago, California passed a bunch of laws on the type of glues you can use in California. And all the glues in California are pretty crappy, to tell you the truth. So we have to do moisture tests and make sure the moisture is at a level that the glue is going to actually hold the flooring down. And there's some provisions in the contract for if it does not meet that standard. There's kind of a higher strength glue that we could pay for that will allow for a higher moisture content. And then the worst case is actually putting a remedial vapor barrier on the floor, which is extremely expensive. Fortunately, our moisture test came out and we don't have to go the route of the very expensive vapor barrier. We are going the route of the higher strength glue, which cuts into contingency about 1,000 or 1,500 or something. It's not a lot of money. So we dodged that bullet. It's a bullet we always try to dodge. But these flooring companies are real carpetbaggers. They've had their methods to have change orders for the last umpteen years, and so we dodged that bullet for the most part. The mechanical electrical stuff is getting stricken out. As I mentioned, Tobin and I are talking about projectors and TVs, owner provided items, and the logistics of making them talk to each other or work within the framework. And Tobin probably spoke of that already a bit. But that's starting to work out as recent as today. Probably the one outstanding issue that Winspear and I and others have been speaking about is the asphalt paving around the campus. And to give you a little bit of history, and I haven't had a chance to talk in depth with Winspear about this, but the history of when they did their initial design, I wasn't here, but I suspect that the civil engineer told the architect, well, we need to grind it all down the entire loop starting from the crest of the driveway. And that'll make a perfect drive. But we know our budgets were tight, and the architect probably pushed back and said, no, we got to do something a little bit more economical. So they came up with this plan of some of the road was going to get new asphalt ground down. Some of it was going to get a slurry coat, which is kind of a dressing. Some of it was going to be just existing asphalt. And, you know, in hindsight, that it didn't really pan out that way because the roads deteriorated enough in areas that the slurry is really not going to buy us anything. The differential between the floor, the finished floor and the existing drive is kind of the what drives elevations, because the existing floor to the disabled parking has to be no more than a 2% slope. So it's pretty shallow. So rather than make up grade as we went out of the building, it was pretty shallow. And then it was kind of compounded by the old principal's office and area. That floor elevation actually was on a slope because I think it was an outdoor patio. So long story short is we had a pretty good differential between where the handicap parking is, the entry, and the roadway itself. To an extent that, you know, actually Wind Spirit was the first one to bring it up. It was a bit too much of a pitch to conform from what we have for concrete and what we have for the road. So we've had a series of meetings with Wind Spirit there to assist. And we came up with a scheme that would put the attention towards the front with new asphalt, make up this conformance better than the first attempt, and forego some of the asphalt in the back of the building for future, maybe after we finish phase 2 and we know we have our arms and legs still, and then forego the slurry on some areas. The net result would be we're going to cut into the contingency if we go this route, about $48,000 or $50,000 to do more of the grind and start from scratch in the front than originally planned when after the architect arm wrestled with the civil on it a bit as far as what our budget was. Wind Spirit and I and others met, and we think that's the best approach to get a good final product in the front and a approach in the back that will allow us to do more work in the future, or more finished work in the future. Is that a fair assessment, Wind Spirit, or do you want to?
Yeah, no, I think you clarified it pretty well. I don't know. Do you have you don't have the map, that the color coded one?
No, you know, when they emailed it to me, it wasn't color coded, and I you know, I just saw the color coded one. But yeah, maybe in the future we could show that, but we need to be all comfortable with moving forward so we could get the asphalt in. But Wind Spirit and I are real comfortable with, you know, it's not great. I mean, it would be nice to have all the money in the world and just grind it all the way around the whole loop and get it done with, but that just wasn't the reality. So anyway, unless you have more Wind Spirit, I'll keep scrolling here.
I just want to ask Wind Spirit, because he has the map on his computer here.
Okay.
Is the purple where the most asphalt is, and the?
You want to share your screen?
Yeah, can I do that? I could try, or email it to Aaron.
You should be able to share it. You ever done that before?
I have to go back to the Zoom here. I think one time I did. Go to myself, share screen.
Choose that.
Do I need to unshare for a moment?
Allow that, showed. Share. Cancel shares and entire share. No, that's not. Oh, maybe that is me. Is that me?
No.
No, it's
Entires.
You should be able to see what you're,
Yeah.
see the map and then share.
Do I need to go back to the map first?
maybe.
But I can't, I'm on Zoom.
That's the only one that comes up. Huh?
Do I need to, maybe I need to stop? Oh, no, it looks like you got it there. Yeah.
Try and start the screen here.
It's not giving me the share box is not highlighted for me. Choose what to share.
Can you click on the top of there? Click on the whatever you want to share. Is that the picture of the map right there? In that big box?
No, that's the
No,
Zoom window.
that's the Zoom
Yeah,
window.
rather
I
than
don't
the-
see it then.
than the-
Wow.
Do I have to go start now, not video?
Or where did you?
So
I can email it to someone quickly if that would work.
You could email it to me.
you know,
Email it to Jason.
as I understood your presentation, Don, because the front of the building needs more extensive work, we're actually exceeding the amount of asphalt that was in the original design.
Correct.
And so, you know, the front is getting substantially more work and the sides and the back are getting, you know, less.
Exactly. We were trying to make a net zero, but it just wasn't happening, you know.
And that overall, I mean, in terms of what happens at the end, what's it going to look like in June? Is it going to be, is the area to the side in front of, you know, the classrooms from the on the gym building, is that going to be rough? Is that going to be, you know, just not finished?
Some of it will be existing asphalt, which is a bit rough, not horrible, but a bit rough. Some is going to be patched where they had to do excavating for trenches and such. And then there's an area that's kind of where the construction trailer now is, kind of hooking westward towards mechanical room. That's going to just be gravel for now. And those areas are going to be, they're going to be bollards that prevent cars from going back there. So it's not going to be a driving area per se. It's just an area that a fire engine could go at if there were an event that they need to get back there.
Come through, Jason.
Not yet.
And are the construction trailers going to remain in their current location for phase 2?
We haven't had discussions on that, but I expect not.
They'll clear out of there.
Yeah, there'll be, I mean, the temporary classrooms down below stay, but the construction trailers will probably be, and then we haven't had any discussions, but they're probably in the lower parking lot, kind of where maybe the greenhouse is or the back, you know, the more northern part of the parking lot, but that still needs to be negotiated.
I think Jason's trying to put it on his screen.
I don't
here.
see it.
Okay.
I can probably explain, Michael, I think,
Okay.
so that everyone can hear me.
Sure.
We all agree that the front, the main entrance of the building is most important to look good.
Mhm.
And so in the original scope, let me back up. The alternate that we were given, I think is what Dawn alluded to, really should not have been given to us. Basically is my analysis. It was unrealistic alternate because the reality of the construction process was going to damage just about, maybe not all, but the majority of the existing concrete there that wasn't already cut up for the work. Compounded with that was what Dawn alluded to about the ADA slope requirements, and particularly out in the front, where there actually was some concrete that could have otherwise stayed with the new, asphalt that could have stayed with the new concrete for the parking. The difference in elevations was so great that it would have made it, if not undrivable, a very awkward connection. And that was most significant in the front by the library area where the ADA parking, but also significant in a few other places. There it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Around to the northeast, which is kind of orange. And so then it was, okay, so what do we do? And obviously I felt strongly that tearing it all out and paving would have been to the tune of probably $250,000, that wasn't where we could afford to spend the money. And so it was really, you know, how can we focus on the front, get an outcome that's workable and looks good and doesn't cost us exceedingly more funding. Some changes were made to allow for what originally there was in the orange portions, it was going to be seamless from the new concrete to asphalt, meaning no step, but now there'll be a step there, and that helped address some of the issues because they are going to be able to do per plan, which is just a narrow cut and patch area in those areas. And then that red in the northwest, that was to be new. And so we shrank that area of new a bit to apply that savings out to the front to try and get as much new out front, and then leave from that red and that blue as gravel. I believe, is that right, Dawn? Is that the only?
The light blue is.
The light blue and red, that's the full gravel area, I believe.
Yes, the blue was originally going to be original asphalt.
Right.
And red was going to be new asphalt. So you backed off to red to get some dollars back, and backed off doing a slurry or anything on the blue to get some dollars back.
Right.
And on the west side,
That's all new.
that's all.
That was
new.
already going to be all new and is still all new because so much work was done
Right.
there and they've taken it all out.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of a, trade-off here and there. I think obviously new asphalt all the way around would look the best, but I think this will give a new appearance to the front and be totally serviceable. And if miracles, we can get through phase 2 and still have some funding, we could go ahead and pave the rest of it. Or there could be. Yeah.
And this is still designing around the school buses going in front of the main entrance.
Correct. And there's bollards. The bollards are placed near the east door and somewhere in there. Yeah. And that, because those are placed there, the entire fire route around the back is not considered a pedestrian traffic interface. And so that's why we were allowed to have that step there. So that was helpful. Change the designation.
Yeah, and actually that step is going to help us in the long run because DSA has kind of changed their tune on ADA interpretation, and they require a step between vehicle and pedestrian of 4 inches or less. So it might save some arguments in the future.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where's the step on that picture?
The orange, I guess all of the north and northeast orange portions.
There's a step down in the quad.
Yes.
Exactly. From the quad to the fire lane.
I want to make sure whatever type of gravel they're using in the back is not a super dusty type.
Indeed, and we discussed that. Well, that will be new. That will be existing with patch. The gravel will be to the north, yeah, in the windy corner, the northwest. It will be fully compacted, and they'll water it in to compact it. Yeah, I mean, of course, it will be more dust than pavement. Of course, pavement with the dust blown in is dusty too. So, yeah.
So the PG&E thing is to the west of the roadway. That's this part right here.
PG&E, the main utility room is right
No,
there.
not the utility room where they had their transformers.
Where you see R5015, it's in that general region.
I don't know what that bubble, what is that on the little cloud to the west of the heat pump courtyard? What is that little?
Yeah,
cloud?
it's just a reference to an RFI question number 15. That is the general area where the transformer is. I think it's actually a tad lower, but it was probably baggage from earlier correspondence when he marked this thing up. But that is where you have this cursor right now. That's about where the transformer or the transformer and the switch gear is. Mainly switch gear. I think the transformer's down below.
No, it is right. It's up above, and it's above ground now, right? Isn't that?
Oh, that's right. Okay, I'm losing it. Yeah.
There's a
So
big.
probably where the switch gear is probably where you have the cursor, and the transformer is that shaded area. Or thereabouts.
Is to try and say with no additional cost, we would have been left with a lot of a lot of gravel,
Mhm,
basically,
mhm,
was I think the short of it, which
mhm.
just doesn't seem appropriate.
Right. And do you want to bring us up to date on timelines in terms of completion and transfer and?
Sure, I'll go back to, can you see my screen again, or do I need to reshare?
You have to
No,
reshare.
we just, Dawn and I were waiting to, I mean, he and I both agreed just to give him direction to go ahead with this. So I think as
Okay.
anyone else, as long as you're on board, and you and Emily and Mark, then
Yeah.
Dawn was probably gonna let them know this evening. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, I'm resharing my screen if I can find which one it is. Oh, there it is. Okay. If I take a lag, are we back with sharing screen? Oh, there it is.
Mhm.
Okay. So as far as timelines, and I might have a schedule here as I scroll down, but basically the updated schedule is end of March. It's going to be us stepping over them and us and them stepping over us as far as moving in, if we stick to that. And so far, the only thing that's keeping us from that, other than them pushing through the final work, is that the two things that have not been delivered yet is the administrative desk at the main admin area. The cabinet maker has not sent that yet. Or the photo frames that the photos are going to be put in. Those are still to be delivered with that casework. The switchgear arrived. I think the only thing that has not arrived so far is the main desk and those photo frames. But right now their schedule, and I'll probably have it on as I scroll later, is to be complete end of March. And which would keep us to do our switch over in your spring break. But I think we're going to be stepping over each other. It'll work, but it might be a bit tense at times. So that's our timeline. Let me keep scrolling here. This is part of the bond report, so I'm just going to skip over the bond cell. We all know that. I didn't take very many pictures since we were in discussions a lot on other stuff, but here's a couple shots of the front entry. You can see between those, if you see my cursor, between those temporary bollards, or actually where that blue Fort Bragg truck is, that's where the big differential between concrete and asphalt is kind of driving that whole front, having to do more work. But you can see all the windows are in. There's some trim work to go around the window that are progressing further than what I show in these photos, but it's really coming along. Okay. Change events. Nothing's really changed except for the discussion we just had about the asphalt. I'm not going to bother rotating these, but this has been in your report, last couple of reports. It's just an itemized list of change events that have tapped into either the contractor's contingency, our contingency, or the allowances that we had set for certain specific items. And I'm just going to gloss over those. The red ones are credits, things that we got back. So you can see we've got about 300 and something thousand left, but that's not counting. Oh, 300 and something thousand was spent out of the $1.1 million contingency. So we have a lot of contingency. It's just the testing and the archaeology has cut into that as well. So it's not quite as good as I show here. Okay. Sorry, I didn't have the PowerPoint with me, so I'm kind of working through the written report I sent. This right here is a letter from Austin, the project manager for Lathrop. It's a good narrative of where we are schedule-wise. So if you want to take a moment later on to read that, that'd be more exhaustive explanation of where we are with the schedule. And basically, I'm gonna get to the end of this schedule. If you get to the end, it's basically saying the third week of March is when they're expecting to be done. Okay. Oh, here we go. Sorry, it's a little bit of lag. So anyway, this is all in your report and you can digest it at your leisure. Trying to get to
Where are we on phase two?
yeah, that's what I'm trying to scroll down to get to. Okay, here, phase, that's a full budget. Maybe I jumped over. Let me just speak of phase two. Phase two is the architect's estimator went back and looked at things differently, had discussions with Lathrop and come to a conclusion that the budget has now for construction is about 9.15, which is much better than what they first attested to, which was considerably more than that, beyond our budget. So for a fleeting moment, at least right now, we're on budget with what we projected for phase two. In fact, I'll keep scrolling and see if I can get to phase two budget here. So for right now, I'm feeling a little bit better. You see right now our budget here, oops. We had 9.2 budgeted after what we think we're gonna have left. Their estimate right now is 9.15, so we're right there, which is comforting. Now TBD, the outfit that does the estimating for QK is not the end all. It's Lathrop needs to do their actual takeoffs and concur or say what they can actually build it for. But the indication is we're back on budget. And we're working with Lathrop now to go through the drawings that are in DSA for approval. They'll start getting numbers from their subs. And it's either going to affirm that it's 9.15 or thereabouts, or something else. So if they could basically get through the motions of going through their subcontractors, get their real proposed numbers, and hopefully it will remain on budget. So I'm feeling better, at least for the fleeting moment, on phase two as far as budget goes.
Where are we in terms of DSA approval?
DSA approval, it's in for review from DSA, and Kevin believes that we should get approval by April or May, more like May. I was being a little bit more pessimistic, thinking it was going to cut into our summer, but I'm running with what he says. So we're hoping to have approval in May so we can segue from phase one to phase two in construction. And if the numbers hold as they just reported last week, we won't be having a lot of dialogue about having to pinch or squeeze to keep rolling. So so I think, let me look at my paper version here. I think that's where we are with the report. Things are looking a bit more optimistic for phase two. And at least as far as myself, Winsford, and Tobin, we're in the crunch towards getting phase one turned over and doing our part.
So do you think next time you'll have a date for the grand opening celebration?
Yeah, we should should be more comfortable with where they are with making that third week of March or not, and then we can set a date. We'll work towards that.
Okay, any questions for Don?
Oh, well, thank you, and thank you for indulging my ping pong and back and forth between Fort Bragg and Mendocino. But at one point, I would like to see Comshy. I've never been up there. So.
All right, we'll go on to the next item, which is 8.2, consideration of leave requests. And these aren't all our leave requests, right? They're just some of them?
Yeah, no, it's just one of them. They had until February 15th to get the request in, so you'll see more in March. This is our mental health counselor.
So is there a recommendation on this item?
There is a recommendation to approve. To maintain the same setup we have this year.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Student trustee Briggs,
Yes.
trustee Griffin,
Yes.
trustee Gay,
Yes.
trustee Morton,
Yes.
trustee Om,
Yes.
trustee Schaefer.
Yes. Item 8.3. Board policies and administrative regulations. There are two categories. Promotion, acceleration, retention of students, and 8.3.2 is what bids can be done administratively, I guess you'd say.
So the bids is pretty straightforward. That number's been changed based on the superintendent's. He changed it. And so that's pretty, the superintendent of public instruction, the state, not me. But that's pretty straightforward. I'd like to,
What's it going up to?
I don't have it in front of me.
Under $9,000.
And then these are information only, so we want to bring back the administrative regulation that we had for promotion before COVID because a critical piece was missing. And that is the notation that for acceleration, that the team consisting of the administrator, behaviorist, psychologist, teachers, and parents, they meet to discuss the needs of the student. So that was taken out for the acceleration piece, and we wanted to make sure that was back in there. But in general, our policy from pre-COVID was what we want back in there. And I'll confirm this with Kim and Tobin that we want that. We'll look through it at our meetings to make sure that it's not missing anything else.
Okay. Any questions? We'll come back as a first reading next time. Hearing none. This was for information only. And are there things that we want to add to future agenda items?
Just want to make sure that request for discussion of start times still makes it on for next month. That was per
Right.
the community members' request.
School start times. All right.
And the next meeting is Wednesday, March 8th.
Wednesday, March 8th. All right, and next week is a school holiday.
Nope, in 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Then why did we meet this week? It's supposed to next week.
I don't know. It was on the calendar, though, so I don't know if it was from
Okay.
somebody else needed something. I don't know.
All right. So we're going to adjourn. We were not able to be live on YouTube, but the recording of this Zoom session will be put up on our YouTube channel. And thank you for watching.